welcome to the podcast. It's the Rise with Diana podcast. We're so excited to share with you a lot of the things that we've been doing in these Rise Advocates streets. We are officially what I like to call the Rise Advocates movement on the Rise with Diana podcast. And we've been so blessed with so many phenomenal women. And if you don't know what I mean when I say phenomenal woman, Google phenomenal woman Maya Angelou, and there will appear our next guest, Sharlyn Katzner. Sharlyn, who is an amazing friend. Okay. Let me just give you a little brief idea of Shar. We'll affectionately call her Shar. She is someone that I've been with since the beginning of 2020. And actually, we met in 2019 when I was doing consulting with her organization. And I will tell you what Shar said to me, and I knew we were immediately going to be attached. She said to me in our one on one coaching session, I feel I'm an advocate. I feel like I need to speak, but I'm not exactly sure where to start. And I said, you've come to the right place. I said it like Yoda. You've come to the right place. I don't know if that sounds like Yoda. But anyways, but Shar is now, of course, 5 years into this beautiful life of, I will call her awakening. So what I would love Shar to do is tell us a little bit about her. Of course, by the sound or by the day of this podcast, she has a daughter who just turned a beautiful age. We all can kind of relate to as moms out here in these mom streets. But Shar, tell us a little bit about what you do. Share, tell us what brings you joy and a little bit of your kind of like, I would say your mission. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess first of all, what brings me joy is,
Yes.
uh, and it's going to sound corny, but helping other people. So
Yeah.
I just, it just when I am helping someone else, or I feel like I'm working for a cause, that brings me great joy. So I need to be working for a company that's mission based,
Yes.
and that makes me happy. So if I feel like I'm working for a great cause, um, that's what fills my cup.
Yeah. So tell us what you do.
So currently, I'm working for a company called Mainzel Solutions, which is a branch of Mainzel Services that is their whole mission is to ensure everyone, it's the company of hopes and dreams. So
Mm,
they serve people who have developmental disabilities. So that's their main focus, is on helping people with developmental disabilities and making sure that they can reach all their hopes and goals and dreams, because every person deserves to be able to do that and is a blessing and belongs. And the company that I work for is a branch of them. And so we are a software company that has a niche software that helps them plan for their services. So the company is based in Minnesota, and then they have another uh, office in California. And both of those states have self-directed services. When what that means is that the person with disabilities has a budget of money that they are allowed, that they get services for from the government or a funding source, and then they budget it, so they get to determine who is going to be their service provider and
got it.
which services they want, when, and where. And so this software helps them manage that, and then would help them pay the people that are working for them, and then build the funding source back so the people that are working for them get paid and that sort of thing. So
What a great service because, we all both know like it's really difficult managing, healthcare providers, especially if you go from a doctor to the hospital to the emergency room. It's just, wow, it's just so difficult. I love that you talk about hopes and dreams. So share a little bit about like some of the hopes and dreams you have for Shar and your family. I want to hear more about your family.
sure, yeah. So yeah, my hope and dream is that everyone, and my family especially, is, I want my children to have a better life than I did. I want them
Yeah.
to have more freedoms and more opportunities, and to be able to speak their voice where I couldn't when I was younger. Um, And so that's my mission right now, is
Yeah.
especially making sure that they know their civic duties of, like, you need to vote every time. You need to speak out. You need to make sure your representatives know where you stand on certain issues, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I have two almost college age daughters. One,
Yeah.
my oldest daughter is she is a senior in college. She'll be graduating in May. She's going to be an intervention specialist. So she's in the same kind of line of work that I am, that she'll be working with people with disabilities.
I love
And
it.
then she just got accepted to graduate school. So she's going to
Mhm.
get her reading specialization. And she got a graduate assistantship. So she'll be doing that starting this summer. And then my youngest is a senior in high school. So today's her 18th birthday.
Yay,
And
happy birthday.
she'll be attending Ohio University in the fall. And she got a scholarship there. And she also wants to be a teacher. So I got two educators coming up
Yeah,
the pike here.
I love it.
Yeah,
Well, Shar, people would not even understand that this right here would not be something you would have done, right,
right.
5 years ago. So let's go back, because there are a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are in executive level positions, they are in senior level positions and still have a difficulty speaking their truth. Yet you found yourself going from, I can't even hardly speak up in a meeting, to actually leading those meetings,
Yeah.
negotiating contracts, and leading a protest. But let's go back to the
Oh,
very, very beginning.
yeah, sure.
Let's go back to the very beginning. What do you feel was getting in the way of you feeling like you actually had the birthright, right, to be able to speak your truth? What do you feel? What were the feelings that you were feeling? Take us back to, like, 2018. What were some of the things you were thinking were blocking you?
So I think back then I had so, like, in 2015, I had left an emotionally abusive relationship,
Mhm.
um, which was like kind of like I would say that would be like the first step of my awakening. So it took
Yes.
me a very long time to leave that relationship, and I actually did a lot of preparation, and I had a coach to help me get out of that. And so when I met you, I had just like pivoted that out of that, where I was in a and where I was in a not safe environment. So
Yeah.
I had gone through years of not feeling safe, or being able to speak up.
Yeah.
And that kind of snowballed into like everything in my life.
Yeah.
And I was the kind of person who was an anxious person to begin with. So from a young child, I was an anxious personality, and he was the kind of person that knew that and was able to take advantage of that
Yeah.
in the relationship. So
So glad that
when
you moved on from that. I just wanna say
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then I think once I got out of the relationship, um, there was just, I don't know, I didn't ever thought that I was a person that had experienced trauma.
Mhm.
Um, but once we got to talking and I was in the academy, I realized, wow, you know, there was a lot of traumatic stuff that fed into my anxiety, even though I had an anxiety disorder. And I knew that even, before I was even in that relationship, that those things affected me. Um, I never really dealt with that. So
Right.
being able to, just I think one of the best activities we did was a sort of we called it the breadcrumbs, where we wrote to ourselves, like our little girls in
Yeah.
ourselves. So I went back to each step in my life of when I
Mm,
was like 5 and when I was, you know 10, and thought
mm,
back at that time in my life and wrote back to myself, and that really kind
mhm.
of helped me realize, I would, that's who I was okay, and then it helped me just go on from there to see, like, I had important things to say,
Yeah.
back then, and I could continue on.
Yeah. Isn't it so interesting how, and this is something I just wish they would teach this in school, about how our younger self really had a lot of answers. And she was pretty, she was less inhibited. Of course, we became programmed as we got into our adult lives to kind of sit back, right? And when you came to me and we spoke, I could feel that there was so much inside of you. But even at that time, it was 2020 and 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
It was this, we had the Black Lives Matter and a lot of things going on about, am a white woman and do I have a place to speak? And I'm like, yes, you
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
and and I just felt like, that was another layer that you had
Hmm.
to like remove from your life. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, because a lot of people need to hear, like, you were trying to listen from all different angles. I mean, you signed up for different types of like social movement and social causes, trying to
Hmm.
figure out your voice. And what were some of the steps that made you realize I do have a place to speak here? What
Right.
were some of the
So,
ahas?
yeah. So part of it was even before our society was so polarized the way it was, I
Yeah.
can remember I can remember sitting in school and in the history classes and learning about like Emmett Till and then learning about the lynchings and the Black Crow laws and the Underground Railroad and even like the Holocaust and Anne Frank
Hmm.
in her diary
Yeah.
and thinking just about why I would want to be one of the brave people that helped those people and just about the horrible things that happened to other
Yeah.
people. And so, you know, when we met and things were, I was starting to become more aware of things that were going around in the world and that, what, this stuff is still happening today. And I feel like I'm so quiet. And I had gone to a talk where they talked about if you're quiet, then you're just being complicit. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be, when I die, I don't want my kids to go look back at me and it's like, well, my mom didn't care about any of these things. She was just, all she cared about was her day-to-day life. And
Right.
I just, I just felt like there was something inside me that that was not who I was going to be. I wasn't going to be a person that just sat back and let life and injustices happen in the world. I needed to do something about it, but I wasn't sure how to speak up or what to do. And then I just started trying different things about
Yeah.
and what little things I could do.
Yeah.
Um, and then one little thing led to another little thing, led to another little thing, and suddenly I'm leading a protest. But
Right. Right. See, like, so let's take this little thing. And I just want the listeners to understand, like, first of all, everything starts with a desire. Like you have to, and you said the word, the A word, which is awareness, right?
Mhm.
Everyone gets a choice in this life to really live life in a way that says, but I want to live for something more than what yes, I'm grateful for what I have. I'm grateful for who I am. But then it's this desire to go, but wait, what more can I do? And I really believe at the foundation of inequity, we'll call it gender inequity. It doesn't matter what inequity you might see, is what's my role
Yeah.
in that? And you decided, well, there is my role. Let's start with me. Let me
Mhm.
speak up about myself.
Right.
Right? So tell
Exactly.
us
Yeah.
about some of the things you started doing in meetings, and then when you decided about your job, like, "Maybe I should be going over here." So tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
some of those
So
things.
right around 2020, 2021. So the small company that I was with, which was a mission-based company, and I really loved, it got bought out by a bigger company that
Mhm.
was funded by a private equity firm. So like the whole kind of culture of the company changed, not just
Change.
because we were bought by a bigger company. So now like our small company of 20 was now a company of like 250. But
Mhm.
not only that, since we were owned by a private equity firm, their main goal is to like hold on to a company for 2 or 3
Yeah.
years and then sell it to somebody else and
So
make as much money as they can. Um, and so it was very interesting because right after um, George Floyd was murdered, um, uh, they jumped on they jumped on the bandwagon, of course, of the DEI stuff. And you all remember Diana was involved, and she came and coached. or she was coaching Solana, which is the company that I was with originally before we got bought. And they were kind of ahead of the curve because we were
Yeah.
already doing that sort of work and coaching and being our authentic selves and just sharing our stories with each other before
Before the
what
crash.
happened with George Floyd. And
Oh,
then we got bought, and then the company that I moved to, um, they wanted to, have their diversity statement. Um, they
mhm,
had Diana come and consult with us as well. But in the midst of that, we lost a couple big deals, and so they turned our CEO over. So our CEO retired,
mhm.
and they immediately brought in a new CEO. And we were in our diversity, our work group, um, where we had this, I can't, what do you call it? Like an ERG. It wasn't an ERG, but it was just like a DEI committee where we were, supposed to be talking about equity and being diverse and all that stuff. And I can remember sitting in that meeting where they were announcing the new CEO, and it was this older white gentleman that they just plopped into our lap. And I'm like, uh, does it seem weird to anybody that we didn't like do any vetting? We didn't look for
Interview.
interview anybody else. We just picked some guy, a random guy out of the private equity firm's pool, and
Mm.
everybody was like, "Yeah, you're kind of right." And then somebody else was like, "Well, that's just how they always do it." And then another person from the equity firm was actually there, and she's like, "Well, we just don't have anyone in the pool yet that's diverse enough that could fill the role." I'm like, "Well, could we look somewhere outside the pool?"
Yeah. So there she is. Shar showing up and already showing out. Like, this is the thing, I think it's really just asking the question, right? It's nothing wrong with asking the question because if and that right there is justice work. That right there. It doesn't have to be what we're getting ready to talk about, which is that Shar went from this, and I'm just gonna, for sake of time, fast forward. She does this speaking up in the meeting, then speaks up to negotiate her contract, right, with a new company, and then goes back to the company. And then what did you do?
Yeah, so I ended up leaving the company because it didn't it didn't fulfill my mission. And
Yeah.
for a year I worked for another company, and then I was actually working as a contractor for the government, and that was um I was really bored. It was
Yeah.
not it was not a stimulating job for me. So and during that time, they told me that they had restructured at the old job, and they asked me to come back. So I was able to negotiate, and I was making quite a bit much more money than when I was when I left. Um,
Because she spoke up,
because I
right?
spoke,
And the
right.
thing is and we talked about this.
Yeah.
And what I love about this, Shar, is that see, it's a trickle down effect, is
Yeah.
that once you really get clear on you, you get clear on your mission, you get clear on what you want, then you get to have so many things. You get to have,
Right.
the wealth that we talked about. We get to have the beautiful relationship that you're married to the
Yes.
love of your life, right?
Yes.
Um, and the health that you want because you're
Mhm.
so conscious of your health. And so what would you say to someone who is thinking about like, this whole rise advocates thing, and then I want to transition to the
Yes.
ultimate of speaking up.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, um, I just wanted to back up just 1 second so people
Yes,
weren't
please
confused,
tell
but
me. Yes.
But so I ended up leaving after I negotiated that contract, I stayed with them for another year, and they hadn't really changed. So then I left again, and that's where I'm at now with Mainzel. So
With
they're the
Mainsail.
good company.
Yes, let's get Mainsail on the map. Mainsail on the map. Go, Mainsail,
Yeah,
go.
and so
Um,
now I'm making even more money than what I was.
yes, I so
Um,
love it. It's just so
yeah,
beautiful.
and I'm not working the number of hours at all what I was before. But
Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Let's
But
go.
anyway, but back to your question about the academy, I would say sign up today. I mean, it really, I don't know, it just helped push me to realize my worth, and um my days of having anxiety are so much lower. And my health is better. I'm more relaxed. And I think one of the best things is, I've learned more and more about you need to be around the people who lift you up, the people who you want to be. Don't, if you are around people that are going to drag you down, it drags you down too.
Right.
So
Exactly.
once I started, freeing myself from people.
Yes, say that part louder for the people in the
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I mean, it really makes a difference. But it just gives you the tools to help you look back over your life and then plan out what you want to do
Yeah.
and then do it.
Because now you are the League of Women Voters,
Yes,
and
I'm
I'm
in the
just
legal.
happy to
Yep.
yes, can you share a little bit about that? And then also, like, I just attended this most amazing protest that I'd
Yeah.
like to talk about. So
Sure.
share this because then as you began to take care of Shar, you
Mhm.
began to take care of your home and your four corners, and now you're serving on a much larger level. Share a
Right.
little bit
So,
about that.
right. So, the League of Women. So, as I was thinking about all the causes that were out there, I'm like, there's so many causes
Yeah.
that are true, like especially different social justice causes. But for me, when I went back down to the way that I always felt like you could make a difference in policy is it's who you vote for. So I went back and I'm like, well, I'm going to be a voters' rights advocate because
Mm.
um, if you don't vote, you can't change who's in charge. So that's where I put a ton of my time now. I found a local chapter in my town of the League of Women Voters, and they've been around for about 100 years.
Right.
And it's a nonpartisan group, which is good for me because I don't like controversy. So
Mhm.
um, being in a political space, that you're surrounded by controversy, but
Mhm.
the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan group. And so
Mhm.
what that means is we don't take sides. We don't on candidates. I should say
Yeah.
that we don't support one party or the other party or different candidates, but issues are a totally different
Mhm.
story. So,
Mhm.
our principles have remained the same for 100 years and they haven't changed. We support democracy and voters' rights and a public education. And
Yeah.
so, even though the world around us has changed and the political climate has changed, our values have not changed. And so
Yeah.
that's I have that organization behind me and those values to help me when I do speak up in those kinds of situations. So that um, is great for me. I mean, it's a good experience. And so I joined it as just a member and kind of just did little things like helping people get registered to vote or
Mhm.
going into a high school and helping those students get registered to vote. Little things like that, or writing a postcards
Yeah.
to voters, reminding them to vote. So just little tiny things like that. And then I got more and more involved. And so right now I'm on their board of directors for our local league. And so I'm like on the advocacy committee. So as an advocate, I got to go to Washington, D.C. last year. Yeah, for the lobby day and meet with our representatives. So I got to meet, of course, the representatives weren't there, but I got to meet with our aides. But I was on
Mhm.
Capitol Hill and it was
Yes.
pretty sweet. It was exciting. Um, and then this coming year, I'm planning to run for president of our local league. So we'll see if I get elected. Hopefully I do. I have some great ideas. I'm hoping to energize our chapter. And then I recently was asked to apply to be nominated for our state board. So I'm waiting to hear back if I've been chosen as a candidate for
I
that as
mean,
well.
right, if you are driving, could you honk your horn? And if you are flipping an egg right now, flip it with, like, a twist and give a round of applause to Shar because this woman do you see the progression? Right? And this is the beautiful part about it is this vigil that we just went to, over 200 people attended, and all because of you, Shar. I
Right.
just
So yeah, so the visual we had, it was a couple weeks ago, and I kind of it was I threw it together kind of like by the seat of my pants. So
that's the
um
best way.
yeah, so the League of Women Voters as a tri-tiered organization. So we have the national, and then we have the state, and then we have local leagues. And so the national put out like a calling all local leagues. We are doing what we call Light for Democracy. And so they asked local leagues to step up and plan these events that were going on, that they wanted to go on while President Trump was speaking to Congress. So people had something else to do besides listening to him speak. Um, and so right away, I said to our board, "Come on, we need to do this. We need to do this." And people were kind of like, but I kept pushing them, and I
Mhm.
got our permit, and I did social media posts. I got all the little candles that we need, the
Mhm.
light up candles.
It was
I
amazing.
wrote a speech.
Yes.
Got a new speaker so we could have a speaker, like microphone, I mean,
Yeah.
and a speaker. Um, and then uh, it just kind of like spread from word of mouth to different people. And I sent out press releases to the local media
Yeah.
and to the radio station, and then they interview me on the radio station the
And
morning
they
of
all
it. Yeah. And then Diana supported me, of course, and then I spoke, and then she was kind enough to speak as well, and we got great press coverage. We got
yeah.
two big stories in the paper, in the two
Yeah.
different local papers.
What you are hearing, my friends, is what we like to call the hero's journey.
Mhm.
And the hero right now we're talking about is Shar, who chose to take on this pilgrimage to understanding her voice, her impact, and the legacy that she's leaving behind. And everyone gets to have that choice. And what I've come to realize in my life, and Shar has been through, we've been through a lot together, is that, I want to hang around people like Shar. Shar's my person. And we have, from the Rise Advocates movement, we now have what we call ambassadors. And we have elected unofficially, because there was no vote, I just decided to make Shar our person who's gonna be helping us on doing I like to call it the next right thing with regard to our democracy and our
Mhm.
rights, to exercise our rights. And so, Shar, that being said, and she's helping me as a former civil rights attorney in the way in which we are working together to lead this, so that when our ambassadors, our advocates, so we go from the Rise Advocates Academy. If those of you are wondering, okay, how do I get involved? You got to go to the Rise Advocates Academy and then the Ignite program. And then if you're being chosen to become an ambassador, and Shar's in that seat right now to help us figure out what we should do. And you guys have heard through this entire podcast, do simple things like speak up in a meeting.
Yeah.
Right? Right, negotiate your own contract, speak up for yourself, and then if you are so desire to go into democracy, but we all have certain rights that we need to exercise. So what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that we need to do more regularly as a citizen to exercise our rights, Shar?
First of all, I would say make sure you vote,
Yes.
and no matter how inconvenient. Well, actually, there's early voting, so really there's no excuse. I mean,
Right.
it's open for like at least 2 weeks before the vote, and on 2 weekends. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of time where you can do the early vote. And the early votes, I've done that for like the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 elections. And it's just I mean, for me, it's convenient, especially
Yeah.
since I live in a small town.
Right.
Um, but making sure you exercise your right to vote, even if you don't vote for everything on the ticket, make sure you at least vote for your issues. Else
Right.
somebody else is going to do it. And
Right.
then you have no say. So I I would say that's
The biggest
very important. And people will say, well, one vote's not going to matter, but it really does. Like if you think about it, my daughter's school levy failed by like 20 votes. 20 votes.
Mhm.
And they cut
20 boots.
her athletic director, they cut her coaches, they cut a couple of teachers. So like this year she was supposed to take Spanish 4. She couldn't because there wasn't a teacher for it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. So vote.
Yeah.
I thank you so much, Shar, because you for me, are what I would say my inspiration because of the fact that for me, like you said at the very beginning of this podcast, that what you love most is helping people.
Mhm.
And that's why you're my person because that's what I love. I'm a people person. I am
Yeah,
about people.
yeah,
Above rules, laws, I am a people person, and when we come together with that, then we can do great things. So what's
absolutely.
one last final thing that you would like to say to our listeners if there's a woman who's just scared, she's, going to bed at night, she's dealing with anxiety, she doesn't know what to say, she's gotta speak to her boss about something, and she's not exactly sure how to do that. What encouragement and advice would you give to her?
And, I would say take a deep breath and then focus on the little things that you can control in your life. So when you get up in the
Yeah.
morning, tell yourself, you know what? I control what shampoo I'm using. I control what soap I'm using. And then that gives you a sense of like, okay, there are things in my life that I can control. And then that kind of gives you, it'll help you give it a sense of peace. At least it does for me. And then as
Yes.
you're breathing through it, then you can, in your mind, visualize what you want to say and then be able to say it.
Yeah.
So, that's what I kind
I
of do. I try to focus on the little things that I do control.
Yeah, and that's after years and years and years of therapy, right? Because at the end of the day, it is that simple. It is that simple. We make it so complicated. And
Yeah.
Shar, I'm so grateful you taking time to be on this podcast, to be in my community, to be my behind the scenes, to be my person who am so grateful that we've locked arms in our Rise Advocates movement. And we are leaving we're gonna leave this earth like there's gonna be like a blaze of just like a trail behind us when we leave. So I'm just so glad. Give me a high five. Eh, okay. And everybody, give yourselves a high five. Give yourselves a hug. Thank you so much, Shar. Shar, where can we reach you on social, right? We can reach out to social. Should we do
Yep.
reach out to you?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Blue Sky.
I love it. Shar Katzner. Mwah. We're so grateful for you. And those of you who are joining us in the Rise with Diana podcast land, like, subscribe, share this with someone. Take notes, understand how you can make a difference right now, right here in your community. And we would love to have you a part of the Rise Advocates movement. Sign up with the link, get on our newsletter. We publish every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. And I'm going live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on LinkedIn and YouTube. We hope to see you next time on the Rise with Diana podcast.